Well, here we are, Primitive Substance again. Dennis Young, another fantastic broadcast here. Mark Winfield, a fantastic English guitarist, plays a lot of jazz. He writes music, and now he's with some really top of the line players now. And Mark, thank you for your time today.
I'm really pleased to be here.
So let's talk about how you got interested in guitar and jazz and the kind of music you do.
Yeah, I've been playing guitar since obviously I was a kid. What got me really into it, I guess the first things really were with Jimi Hendrix
Hmm,
or
that's a
Jimi
good
Hendrix.
start.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, this is the sound I've been hearing in my imagination. Like this is the
Hmm,
ultimate sound somehow. When I was sort of 14, or I don't know how old I was, I was young. But before that, and still
hmm.
to the I was very into the Beatles when I was a kid. Still am now. Fantastic. Um, Still into Hendrix now. In love it all that stuff. So that was the formative thing, and then I started playing the guitar and got into all kinds of rock music, and then eventually, sort of 18, 19, I discovered classical and jazz. Well, jazz
Hmm.
first, classical, um, and it just went from there. And then I got really interested in jazz and playing it and listening to classical music and composing. And then after a while, I discovered music from around the world and got really interested in that and built up a huge library of music from around the world. And that became it still is a big influence on what I do. So yeah.
I mean, it sounds really great. You have a lot of sounds and it really blends together with your guitar really well. Do you play like a lot of with written music, or do you do a lot of improv? How does that work?
It depends on a project. With most of my own albums, it's like like a lot of jazz or related music.
Mm,
You have a tune and a chord progression that I've written. Usually, my albums are all stuff I've written, and you play the melody, and then you improvise on the chords.
got it.
Um, Solo around the chords, and then you go back to the melody. And sometimes I have a section that's more free, and then back to the kind of chords and melody. It's the general format for most of my solo band albums, but then I do some other stuff with Kevin Castning
Okay, I'm going to talk about that, right?
and Marcus Reuter as well with our Tier project, where it's completely improvised and there's nothing at all planned. And I've done some other things like with the album I did with Gary Husband, Tour and Veil. That was a mixture. About half the tracks were like a composed tune, and the other half were completely improvised. So yeah, it's a mixture, really.
Gary's amazing. I mean, his piano playing is just exquisite, and drumming. He's just an all around fantastic musician.
Really.
And then let's talk about, you were on this label Dark Energy. Was that your own label, or was that
My own label, yeah.
okay? Because you had three great records that you did, right? Three albums that solo.
First, yeah, that's not the first three albums I did, but
Okay,
the first three I did three on that label and then moved to Moon June after that, and
right.
Moon June. But I still got my label.
Yeah, that
I
was
haven't.
yeah, that was the Moon June's a good move because they have a lot of so many great artists on there. Leonardo, I did speak with him, and he's pretty picky on who he picks to have on the label, and he knows the right people to pick on him.
Yeah, Leonardo's been so supportive of what I do and the other artists on the label. I have to say, he's been incredibly supportive of that whole kind of movement of music. It's fantastic.
So, how did you meet Marcus? How did that happen?
How did I
Marcus
first
Ritter.
try to remember how I met Marcus? I think it was probably that first. I don't know if I'd met him before that. I think we'd had a Skype. I can't remember really. But that first album we did together, the Stone House, it may have been the first time we met, although I can't believe it was. We must have met, I can't remember. We must have met before then because we kind of came into that session with ideas we'd already been talking about. So to be honest, can't remember exactly when I met him, but it was quite early on in that time. And it was the first recording I'd done. So it must have been sometime, like not long before that, I should think.
He really is something with improvising. I mean, it just all these sounds come out, and he's got such an amazing sound that comes out of that bass. Incredible.
Yeah, touch guitar, yeah, he's
Yeah,
an
the
amazing
touch.
Amazing musician, amazing guitar player and producer, composer. Yeah, fantastic.
Now, how did you meet Asaph Circus? I mean, that's a fantastic drummer. How did that come about?
Yeah, Asaf, I met him
Asaph.
from doing my first album with Moon June, which was Remain in Light. And I wasn't actually, don't know if I was actually with Moon June at the time, whether I'd actually kind of joined up with them or whether it happened just after I'd arranged it. But I knew I wanted to record a new album and I was looking around for a drummer and a bass player for it because it was going to be a trio album. And I'd heard, I knew his playing and
Mm,
I knew was really in a similar direction to me in terms of his own music. I mean, Asaf can play anything, any style really, but I knew that the kind of stuff he did of his own albums were quite in a similar direction. So I thought he's worth um, having a session with, see how it works. And it really gelled, it really fit.
mm.
He hears the music and he knows exactly kind of what I'm after, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
He kind of trying to get to right away, which is just fantastic.
He's got such a touch, he really feels the music. It reminds me of like Max Roach used to have like a feel like that, where you actually feel the music, not just pound away and play. That's what I
He
love about his playing.
is an amazing drummer, amazing musician and composer as well, all round. But an amazing drummer. Yeah, I love what he does. He's very versatile. But one of the things I really like about his music is that his playing is that it's very sensitive to the music, but also it's it's got a complexity built into simplicity in a way. It's the way I kind of think about it. Like
Mm,
it doesn't super complicated, but actually there's layers of complexity behind
yeah,
this
I
what he's doing.
agree.
Is what gives the whole music like this uh lots of kind of openings for interesting improvisation to happen because there's always some interesting rhythmic thing or implication going on. And yeah, fantastic drummer.
Now, the line to three with Kevin Castring, what is, I don't know anything about Kevin. Could you talk about that record and what he does?
Yeah, I mean Kevin's a phenomenal musician
Mm,
um, he has really invented an entire new uh, area of guitar, really
mm.
single-handed. He has designs these instruments and has them built to specification, many strings on them, like, I don't know how more strings than I can count. More
Wow.
than,
Mm,
many strings, sometimes two necks, sometimes on a single neck. And his approach is very compositional in the sense
mm,
that first did our first album together. We discussed it before doing it, and what really drew us to want to do something together was that I was interested in doing something completely improvised. Everything he does is completely improvised. But what I liked about his approach, which is the same approach I try to take, is to try to improvise as if there is a composition there, even though there isn't.
okay, I see.
Rather than just playing kind of free, you're trying to kind of create a composition one phrase at a time. And that was very much where he was as well. So it really gelled between the two of us playing together. And we've carried on doing albums regularly since then.
Well, it sounds like you have a structure, an idea, not just play, and then you work off that, right? That idea, what you both have. How's that
You
work?
don't have anything planned beforehand with Kevin and I. It's completely like nothing at all.
Oh,
Ex-
okay. That's great.
And sometimes we will we'll have something like now we did this album, can't remember what it was called now. But it was an album that was inspired by Vermeer paintings.
Oh,
Okay, that would be an interesting thing to do. Let's do a piece about each piece will be about a Vermeer painting. He had this book of Vermeer paintings. He opened it out and put it there and just looked at the painting and played. So that's as close as we get to having anything
right,
pre-planned.
right. Oh,
But usually we just sit down literally without any talk about any what we're going to play at all and just turn on the recording and just start playing. Sometimes we'll say, well, you want to start or I'll start
yeah.
rather than that. Usually. Sometimes we might have a little bit of like, well, why don't we, play for a while and then bring it down and
Mm.
then but usually not even that. So yeah, but we very much try to approach it from the point of view as if we're playing a composition, as if we're kind of creating a composition as we play.
Okay. Now, do you play live at all? Do you actually play these shows live with him?
Yeah,
This
I've played
music?
with Kevin a bunch of times. He lives over in the US and I live here, so it's not always possible to get together and play that often. But yeah, we've done a bunch of live performances and a number of live radio performances.
I got to check that out.
They've all been released on CD and download. We just released one this year that was recorded in New York
Mm.
at the WNYC studios there.
Oh, that's a great place. Yeah, that's a good station, especially
And
for
that was
jazz.
this year, yeah. So yeah, we've done various performance stuff.
Any chance to coming back to the States to play again?
Yeah, I don't have any definite plans now, but I will be at some point, maybe in the next year or so. I'm hoping to arrange something, but yeah, it won't be too much longer, I don't think.
So I want to talk about the gathering with got all these great players on it. Percy Jones, Gary Husband. It's wow, it's an all-star lineup there. How did you get these guys? And Tony Levin. How did that happen?
Well, a lot of it was thanks to Leonardo. I mean, I knew Gary anyway and had done a couple of albums with Gary before then, or an album with Gary before then. Actually, no, we recorded them at the same time. But I knew Gary anyway. Um, but Tony, I'd met Tony, but I didn't know him well. But he's good friends with Leo, and plays on Leo's label on Moon June.
Right.
And Percy, I've always loved Percy's playing,
Oh,
and
nothing like Percy, right? Nobody sounds like him.
nobody sounds like him. And so Leonardo and I were talking about what should we do for my next album, and I said it would be great to do another thing with Gary, uh, and then he said, "Oh, why don't you do something with Tony?" And I said, "Well, that would be really great. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think the two would really work well together." And then, it didn't occur to me about, although I've always loved Percy's playing.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite bass players. I didn't think of because I didn't know him of asking him, and Leah said, "Oh, why don't you ask Percy Jones?" And I said, "Hey, that's a great
Yeah,
idea."
yeah. Can't get better than that.
So yeah, just that's how it came together.
It's a great album. I mean, you could hear all the players along with your fantastic playing. And that just came out, what, 2024?
Yeah, last year, yeah,
I got to look into that. It's on what, vinyl and CD? Is it available?
or download, yeah, on Bandcamp, you can get it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fun recording that. And actually, when we recorded it, there's three tracks on it that have two drums, Gary and Asaf playing at the same.
Oh,
And Gary was playing keyboards and piano on most of the tunes. And we were in the studio, this really fantastic studio that Leonardo hires in Spain called La Casa Morada, and it's built into a thousand-year-old stone mansion. They built this
wow. Huh. That sounds amazing.
beautiful place, absolutely fantastically, beautifully to be in. It's beautiful to be in, but also like they've got great equipment and everything, nice atmosphere and everything. And we were there, and we were playing and recording, and we gotten through a lot of the tunes, and I had like three tunes left, and I just suddenly thought, wait a minute, I've got two of the best drummers
Mm,
around
yes.
in the current day right here. Why don't they play together? Because Gareth's playing keyboards, So I said, listen, we got to do something with two drums. And so we set up another drum kit, and we did three tunes with two drums, which I'm so glad that happened because it was really an afterthought. I hadn't planned that. And it was
Mm,
only like three-quarters of the way through the session, I suddenly thought, I can't not do this. What an opportunity with the two of the greatest drummers
yeah.
playing together. And yeah, it worked so well. That was the other thing. They know each other anyway. And I remember I said to them, because what I thought would be so great to have them playing together, but what I didn't really want was a kind of like Battle of the Drummers kind of thing, or not that I thought they'd do that, but I
Yeah.
wanted something that wasn't really about trading off or soloing back and forth or something. I wanted something that was a bit more. What I said to them was, why don't you think about the idea of trading smoke signals, you
Hmm.
know,
Interesting. Yeah.
so that you're kind of trading motifs rather than, lots of, complicated.
Fills and all that. Yeah. I
Uh,
understand.
yeah, they went actually what they did. I don't know whether that actually did affect what they did or not, because what they did after that was they went away and they talked about conical for like 20 minutes, half an hour. They're both really into conical. The Indian it's an Indian method of
Oh, okay.
if you study Indian rhythm, it's called conical, and it's a method
Okay.
of that allows you to kind of play any imaginable rhythm.
Hmm.
And they um, and so they went off and taught that for a while, and then came
Oh,
back.
wow.
That was the result, is what you hear. Yeah.
Did you have Tony and Percy there, or did they just do it remotely?
After we'd recorded the tracks, they put on their parts. Yeah, they weren't. It wasn't
Okay.
possible at the same
Yeah, it
time.
must be hard to get everybody together in Spain, I'm sure. Fly everybody over, and I'm sure that their schedule, especially Tony, his schedule is pretty busy.
Pretty busy. But whereas with Asaf, me and Gary were all in the UK, so it was pretty easy for us to get
Yeah.
there.
So talk about your instruments a little bit, your guitars you play, the pedals and amps. So what exactly, how is your setup for shows and recording?
Yeah, well, I don't actually use an amp, and I've been playing without amps for like 20 years now, I think,
Oh, okay.
because the sound that I hear is not a sound I can get by plugging a guitar into an amp with the usual pedals. I
Okay.
mean, great, but it's not what I'm hearing in my head. So to get to that, I had to find another way. And so I use a bunch of different things. Primarily, I use a Roland VG88, which is it's a hardware box.
Okay.
Uh, it's been around for like a long time, 20 years at least, maybe, yeah, something like that. It sometimes people think it's a synth because it uses the Roland hex pickup. I'll show you.
Okay.
But
Oh, neat.
it uses this,
Oh, yeah. I've seen that before. Yep.
it's not a synth at all. I mean, this usually is used to drive a synth,
Right.
guitar synth, but the Roland VG system isn't. It's a normal analog guitar effects, really. But the
Okay.
difference is that because what the hex pickup does is it takes each string out separately. So each one has its own pickup.
Oh, I
And
like that.
yeah,
Right.
you got wires coming out in one cable. And it means that it can have a different, processor on every single string. So if you imagine you had whatever you have, like a compressor and a distortion box and
Right.
a whatever, imagine you had a separate one of those on each string. And of course, you could make them sound different, but that's not what I do. And the point of it is that when you do it that way, you can have quite a bit of distortion, and it doesn't all make a mess. You can play chords, and it still sounds really clean. And you can create like particularly kind of overdrive sounds that you just can't really get if you stick all your strings through, an amp or a box in one go. It just gives you that little bit extra kind of control over shaping the tone.
Mm.
And yeah, I just got some tones on it. I really, really liked it. I still use them. And so I'm usually going through that. Apart from that, I pretty much go from that straight into the mixing console or into
Okay.
the PA if I'm playing live. And then I also go and take another feed from that into a laptop. And there I've got all kinds of processing going on. And that's where the soundscapes come from,
Oh, okay.
soundscape things. And that is like loads of parallel processing of reverbs and delays and modulations and all kinds of stuff. So I've got this kind of soundscape rig on a
Mm.
laptop sitting alongside of that.
Do you create like these loops, or does it just sound just go on and change? And how does that work with that
Yeah,
soundscape?
mainly the reason I mainly got into that was because I love the guitar as an instrument, but when I was sort of quite young, like 18 or 19, I discovered classical music and I got very into it. And I just started hearing those chords, those big orchestral chords in my head and piano. Listen to a lot of piano, jazz piano stuff, and just hearing these
Right.
chords are impossible to play on the guitar. You can't even get close to it.
Yeah.
The guitar, fantastic instrument, but in terms of chords, you've got set of things you can do and nothing outside of that, just because you can't reach the notes. You've only got six strings and this
Right.
many. And although you can play beautiful chords on the guitar, that wasn't what I was hearing in my head. I was hearing these orchestral voicings where you've got,
Mm.
you can take, say, five notes and you can rearrange them in any order you like, so that you can have many different voicings meaning different orders of the same, say, five, six, seven notes, whatever. On the guitar, you can't play many of those voicings. You've got a choice of like maybe two or three, but in an orchestra, you've got many different
Yes.
ways.
If I, right.
There's
Oh,
one way down. You can stick a lot of notes really close to each other, which are on the guitar. In order to play that, you'd have to have, and this big.
mm.
So I always found it really frustrating that I couldn't play any of that on the guitar. And that's how I got into the soundscape thing, because I thought, what if I could get a note to sustain a bit like a sustain pedal on a piano,
Right.
sustaining, and then I could add it with a single note, and then I could add another single note anywhere I want to that, and then another single note anywhere I want. And I could build up exactly the voicing, orchestral or piano like voicing that I wanted to have, by sustaining that note into a reverb or set delays and reverbs and things. And that's how I got into it, so that I
Oh,
could
okay.
sounds that I was hearing. And over time, I thought, well, this is good, but wouldn't it be good if I could make the chords? Because normally what I play is I've written some chords, and we play the chords and then you improvise through the chords.
Right.
And it's going to come next, this chord, and you know what scale to play for that, and this chord, you go to the next scale for the chord or whatever you're playing and so forth. What if I could make the chords from what I played, so the chords follow me instead of me following the chords? I thought that would be an interesting idea.
Yeah,
So
that is. Wow.
I also found that I could do that with the same method of, because I was feeding the notes in, I could play single notes, which would create a chord,
Mm.
and then I could stop feeding those notes in and the chord would carry on and I play a bit, and then I could pull that chord down and then feed some new ones in for the next chord as I was playing. So the chords would be generated like from what I played. So it's kind of both.
Wow.
I got into that whole sort of soundscape thing with the laptop and all of that.
Well, it's an infinite amount of sounds you could get now with that. I mean, you could play like on and on. It sounds fantastic how that happens. So, talk about. Do you also do teaching? Right? You teach also guitar.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do teach
I
guitar.
saw some of your on YouTube. You do some lessons.
Um, I don't think I've got many lessons on YouTube. I might have one or two up there, but I
Okay.
haven't put any up there for a long time. But I do teach privately. If anybody's in, just contact me.
Okay. So what's going on next year? Well, I mean, you got so much music you could produce. Are you planning another album this year into 2026?
Yeah, I've got lots in the works. I've got an album that was recorded a little while back that has another band album, which doesn't have a title yet. It's done pretty much. It just needs to be mixed.
Okay.
Uh, don't know when that's going to come out because it will depend on the Moon June schedule, but probably sometime next year. And then I've got a solo album that's
Oh, okay.
to get released, because I did a live stream concert last Saturday, I think it was. Yeah, last Saturday.
Hmm.
And that is going to be released as an album. So that's just being mixed at the moment. And then Kevin and I are just about to release another album, and Marcus and I have another tier album that we've also recorded that's going to be coming out. So it just needs the mixing finished on that one.
Wow. That's a lot of work. I mean, well, Marcus is just constantly doing music. I mean, with somebody. So, wow, that is great, Mark. You really keep going. It's just, and then where we could find your music mostly on Moon June. Is that the main source, or there's your website?
Yeah, you can get to it on my website. Just go to my website and there's a link to my Bandcamp page
Okay.
there. So that's probably yeah, or the Moon June site, yeah.
So what do you think the future of music is now with all this modern technology happening with artificial intelligence? Where do you think we're going?
Not to a good place.
That's true. Probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI could be fantastic for medical research and stuff like that, but that aside, I don't think it's probably a very positive thing. It seems to me like it's just taking away a load of people's jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And these major companies just keep pushing billions of dollars into development to squeeze a little guy out, the labor out there.
It just seems like all around a really bad thing. I mean, we've been surviving without AI all of this time, and it just seems like, yeah, how can the idea that it's going to give us all free time, like that's not going to happen. Like,
No, no. And it's
not gonna,
happening so much faster than I thought it was. It's really, we thought it's speeded up
yeah,
quick.
scary. Yeah. And in terms of music, I actually think that music is going to be one of the. It depends what you're doing. If you're doing like mixing, mastering and stuff, I think it could. People, a lot of jobs are probably going to go. But in terms of
Right.
actually creating music, I have a feeling it's at least the kind of music I do isn't going to be affected by it because I think
No,
people know that there's a human being behind it. That's the whole point of it.
that's true.
So even if AI could make music that was as good, which I don't think it could, but even if it could, I don't think people are going to be interested in that. They want to know there's a human being there, not a machine. So I kind of think it won't affect kind of music I do,
Yeah.
but affect some other areas of music. I don't know. I have trouble
Yeah.
feeling I want to listen to something that isn't from a human unless it's elevator music or something.
I
But
agree. And then, well, the live shows will continue too, though. People want to see human beings play. So that's still going to continue. And I think that's the way to people are going to still find music is live performance. And there you could buy the physical records and not be caught up in just this artificial world. That's what they're trying to create, an artificial world for us to go into and forget about this one. But it's the times we live in, right? What are you going to do? Just have to bear with it. Well,
yeah,
Mark, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for doing this, doing some fantastic music. You're just constantly innovative with these ideas on guitar. It's really great. I'm glad everybody out here has got to hear your story about what you're doing.
well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, and keep the great music coming on, and I'll be looking for your records.
Thanks so
Take care,
much.
Mark.